In this video, we're going to talk about adoption and diffusion process for new products. So first we have in terms of stages in the adoption process, and this pertains to new products. So when we actually adopt a new product, we go through 5 stages: awareness, interest, evaluation, trial, and adoption. At the awareness stage itself, we have in terms of the consumer becoming aware of the new product but lacks information about it. You may be heard in terms of a new app out there, but you don't have more information about it. And on this itself, yourself as a consumer will try to seek information about this new product, this new app, and from there itself you will then evaluate whether you think that this new app is worth for you to download and install onto your mobile. And on this itself, if you decide to do so, you do a trial. You do it an installation, you test out the product on a small scale, and from there you estimate whether it is valuable to you. So after trying in terms of the app, you have of course 2 options, especially if it's a free app. You decide whether you want to keep the app or you want to delete the app. And on that itself is where we look at adoption. Do you actually keep the app to make full and regular use of the new product, or do you decide that you do not want to adopt it? And in the case of the stages in the adoption process, awareness, interest, evaluation, trial, and adoption, this provides in terms of the business the opportunity to influence at the different stages itself using the marketing mix of the 4 Ps. Next, we talk about diffusion or innovation, and again this pertains to new product. There is research in terms of how a new product decision looks at in terms of how people can be classified into 5 adopter groups with differing values. So in the case of looking at the whole population itself, of how they make the purchase, a research was done to look at in terms of how there are 5 types of adopters. And the 5 types of adopters looked at in terms of what we know as innovators, early adopters, early mainstream, late mainstream, as well as lagging adopters. Each of these itself has a various in terms of characteristics, and they have a different way of adopting the product. Starting with the innovator. Who are the innovators? They are the person who are first to adopt new product, obsessed with trying new ideas at some risk. So if you recall in terms of in the news, sometimes you have a new product launch and you have queues of people staying overnight in terms of at the store prior to the launch to actually be the first to actually pick up the product. This is what we term as usually what we know as the innovator. They are the first to adopt the new product. The next one we have what we know as the early adopters. Early adopters in some sense are quite similar to innovator, but the difference is that early adopters are opinion leaders in their community and adopt new ideas early but carefully. So in the case of early adopter, they go a bit further. Instead of just picking up the new product, they also want to influence in terms of the communities they are in. Next, we have what we know as the early majority. Early majority adopt new ideas before the average person collects and evaluate more info than early adopter. So in the case of early majority, these are the set of groups that purchase at a later stage, and on this itself, they need more information before they decide. Then you have what we know as the late majority. These are the people who purchase in terms of later, and on this itself, these are the people who we term as conforming to the group norm. So after in terms of this product, this new product is being used by the innovator, early adopters, and early majority, the late majority itself, a bit due to peer pressure itself, will actually conform to the group norm and adopt of the product because a majority of people have tried it. And lastly, you have the group of people who just refuse or are too late in terms of the adoption. These are what we call laggards. Laggard last in terms of to adopt a new product. They are tied to tradition with heavy influence from the past and does not follow group norm. So one of the example in terms of laggard itself, it could be in terms of some of your friends or relatives that are still perhaps not on social media. So on a social media basis itself, the laggards group itself are not in terms of interested in the product. They still prefer in terms of the traditional paper and pen, or perhaps in terms of traditional ways of communication, face-to-face. Social media perhaps is not an option for them, and on that itself, you have what we term as the laggards. So from innovator, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards, this is what we term as the diffusion or innovation, whereby each group itself represents a percentage. The innovator itself represents a small one, about 2.5%, followed by early adopters. Early mainstream is also known as your early majority. You have your late majority, and lastly you have the laggards, or otherwise known as your lagging adopters. So on this itself, we look at in terms of both the adoption with regards to the diffusion process for new products. I see you in the next video.